You're listening to Riacast, a podcast of the Southwest Florida Real Estate Investment Association. Riacast brings together a variety of real estate entrepreneurs from all over the world to share tips and ideas. The core purpose of the Southwest Florida RIA is to help members become more profitable and successful through networking, education, and empowerment. Here are your hosts, Jeff Tamarello and Michael Lyons.
I am Jeff Tamburello. I am one of the directors of the Southwest Florida RIA, joined by the other director of the Southwest Florida RIA, Mike Lyons. And we have Jennifer Fisher. She's an attorney with us. She's going to be our speaker at the general meeting. Our meeting coming up is Building Wealth Without Losing It, Asset Protection for Real Estate Investors. How you doing today, Jennifer?
It's good to be with you, Jeff and Michael.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for being willing to speak at our meeting. We're looking forward to it.
Yep. I'm so excited. Real estate, legal matters with real estate are my life. I'm a board certified real estate attorney. I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of investors. I'm very experienced to brand new and just helping them get into the process in a way that allows us to, because every real estate transaction has its bumps along the way and its potential pitfalls. And a lot of the time it's about evaluating where are the risks, where are the benefits, and figuring out a way to hopefully reduce those risks while increasing the benefits. And there's a lot of creative solutions that can go into that. And there's a lot of due diligence that can help us evaluate a real estate transaction to make it sure that it's something that really works for the investor. So I can't wait to talk with you all about some of the bumps in the road that I've seen, some of the bumps in the road that you all have seen, and just strategize together of how to make it a better investment.
No, that's awesome. And we don't want to give your presentation away by any means. We would definitely want to promote it with one. Can you tell us a little about you're an attorney? How long when did how that all come about? Why an attorney? What's your background there?
Sure. So I actually started out as a receptionist in a law firm. And the lawyer that I worked for did real estate transactions. And I got into it and I just loved all of it. It's a wonderful puzzle that you put together, getting all the information and working through it. And at the end of the day, to watch, a buyer and a seller have a successful transaction and watch that buyer who now owns the property get to realize a dream. And that was, being able to help people realize their dreams was really what attracted me to not only the law, but a real estate focus within the law. So after about 7 years working my way up, becoming a paralegal, I then went to law school down in Naples at Ave Maria School of Law. From there, after I graduated, I joined a wonderful boutique firm that did a lot of real estate transactions, and I was the attorney that handled the transactions. But the firm also did a lot of land use. So looking into what is the zoning of a land and what zoning is it now, what it could be in the future, and working through all sorts of development issues, whether it be a development agreement or doing a public-private partnership with a jurisdiction, a government jurisdiction, to maybe bring some public benefit and maybe have some incentives from, the jurisdiction. So from there.
Well, I was going to say, I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off. She's a lot sweeter than us, Jeff. I just want to point that out. So she's like, no, go ahead. Sorry. Well, even the zoning, again, that might even come up at this meeting. I know a lot of people have questions. I think a lot of people are kind of not fearful. That's probably the wrong word to use. There's a lot of unknowns there too. We might ask some questions during the meeting about that with your experience. But go ahead.
Now here's one easy question for you. Would you advise a client, I just encountered this, would you advise a client, and this is not legal advice at all, this is just three people talking, but to close on a piece of land before that needs a major rezoning to use it for your intended use, would you close on it before you got that rezoning?
So my favorite lawyer answer, and it's kind of like the Sunday school answer, if you go to Sunday school, the answer is always Jesus.
Yeah.
When you ask a lawyer a question, the answer is probably always going to be, it depends.
It depends.
And so even in this, I'm going to give you the Sunday school answer of it depends. There are certain ways that you can go about that process to have some reasonable certainty in advance. of what a potential rezoning outcome may be. There are also ways to go through that process to get a conditional grant of a zoning change prior to closing. If you want to do it that way. Most commercial investors tend to go through a rezoning process prior to closing, and it's a condition of closing. So if you were going to do that, you would need a real estate attorney to work on the contract language to make sure, you know, deposits are refundable, and to work on that whole process of helping a seller feel comfortable with what the buyer is doing. Now, on the flip side, if you are the seller, of course, you know, there's going to be, and someone's wanting to do some sort of rezoning, special exception, something like that, there's a lot to consider how you let that other party present that project to the jurisdiction, because you don't want them presenting something that, if the deal falls through, is going to hurt your needs. So again, there's a lot to think through. It's going to be very fact specific. But if you are intending to purchase a property and use it for a use that is not currently approved, that is a potential pitfall. And so definitely something that would be very wise to talk with a real estate attorney about, to again look at pros and cons.
And so I'm going to sum that up though. I got this. If you're the seller, sell as fast as you can.
Yeah.
If you're the buyer, wait until it's done. That's horrible advice. That's why I'm not an attorney. Yeah.
This is a case too where they're taking, you know, the zoning's really a pyramid. You've got, as you go up, and they're jumping about 3 or 4 legs up the pyramid, and they've already closed on it. And I'm like, well, I mean, you're going to get it done, but you know, your attorney's going to have a beach house.
That's great. Well, so on the asset protection side, which is what the main portion of what you'll be speaking and how to protect people, Jeff and I were talking this, I think, before we got on this call. How quickly do you hire an attorney for something like this? So we have a thought in mind of what that answer is, but what is your thoughts on that? I mean, again, we know how important attorneys are. What are your thoughts there? How quickly should someone start that process?
So I'll put it this way. The sooner I can identify an issue, a potential risk, the more time we have to work on it. So, for example, if a contract's already signed, there's really nothing I can do. It is what it is. If certain negotiations have already begun and certain promises are just, you know, good faith, you know, you're building that rapport with the other side of the transaction, and certain things have been said already, it's hard to undo those.
Makes sense.
So yes, so I hope everyone's answer is as soon as possible. So that way, you know, the creativity is coming in, the contract provisions that need to be drafted, you know, all of those things, we're working together as a team. Now, let's talk cost. I know a lot of people are concerned about the cost of legal advice. And my thought on that is, you know, think about the ultimate number that you're going to be investing in this. And, you know, what would you pay to protect that? You know, if you're buying a $3 million parcel, and, you know, maybe your expected outcome on the end is you're going to be able to eventually sell it for 10 million. Are attorney fees that much when you're looking at it in that big picture? So, you know, just kind of some pros and cons. And yeah, that's a little bit of spring advice there, since I am an attorney, but at the same time, you know, thinking about this is an investment, and where do you want to put your money to protect yourself? So for example, when we're together, I'm really looking forward to talking about due diligence efforts. You know, what is a phase 1? What is the survey? What information are you getting from those studies, and how do you utilize that? You know, how do you look at a title commitment to understand what easements are on property and aren't? You know, what do you need? Because believe it or not, survey exceptions are the #1 title claim. And so if you can fix that before you close, you're saving yourself money. If there's an easement issue that needs to be resolved before you close, let me tell you, easement litigation is expensive, and it is not worth it. It is not worth it. So if there's those types of items that we can solve way in advance, that is such a great way to protect yourself.
I would say too, mistakes are a lot more expensive to fix than getting it done right the first time. So, I mean, I've had that apprehension or heard that apprehension from individuals. I don't hire an attorney. I know what I'm doing. Do you though? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that legally, I'll give you an example. You closed a very large transaction for me recently, and I definitely thought I know what I'm doing. And then when you were done, I'm like, I do not know what I'm doing when it comes to a lot of the legal aspects of things for protection, for title work in the future, for how to resell property. Like I was like, yeah, we're good. Like let's make sure there's no title defects. But like we did so many things that would have been a lot more expensive, a lot more time consuming in the future had we not started right from the first place. But I think a lot of people, you mentioned a $3 million transaction for 10 million. There's nothing wrong with a $100,000 transaction and having someone to consult with and spending the time, especially if either you're new or it's just kind of an odd deal, a little bit different to it, which investors are odd and they do odd things. They buy odd things. So that's just what we do. And having an attorney.
Another way to look at that is what percentage of this deal is your net worth? You know, if you're investing 25% of your net worth, it's hard to recover from that because, if you do something good and then it expands and expands and it's a linear growth. And if you start taking steps back, you're done. So, I mean, I was talking to somebody in the RIA the other day and he's about to buy a lot, a flip, and it's like 150% of his net worth because he's borrowing some of the money. You know what I mean? I'm like, you better make sure that, because he was talking about doing it on a quick claim. I'm like, absolutely not, dude. Are you doing that?
Yeah, that is not wise. No, that makes sense. Well, let's see. And again, we don't want to give your presentation away, but maybe one last question when it comes to kind of how to prep people. So what would you say is the most common thing for asset protection, like mistakes that investors make that they should take care of before they get sued, before they deal with an issue legally? That's kind of a loaded question, I know, but do your best.
Yeah. Due diligence. Due diligence. In that transaction, get a long due diligence period. And so what I mean by that is, talk to the professionals he will be using, talk to the surveyor, talk to, if it's a property that needs a phase one, make sure you know how long they need to get out there to do their research, to be able to give you a report. So then you have enough time to make an educated decision. And of course, the balance there is the seller is going to try and push that to be faster. And so, there's ways to make a seller comfortable to know that you are serious. So, hey, maybe you do put up a little bit of a hard deposit. Here's $1,000, hard money. This is definitely yours just for the time frame that you're giving me to look at the property. But my actual big deposit will remain refundable until we are done with this due diligence period. And then that way you have your title work and you've had enough time to really look into it. You have your survey, you have your, if you need a zoning verification letter, if you need, again, the phase one, all of those different things, the building inspection done in such a way that you are very comfortable with it. When you have that information, now you have the ability to evaluate the risk and create a risk management plan.
Makes sense. That makes sense. Well, and again, and I know I said one more question, but I got another one. So that's the transactional side of it. One thing I know we'll cover at the meeting is the asset protection and the aspect of LLCs and trusts and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, and a lot of companies or a lot of individuals, investors, some think they have to have an LLC for everything. Some just don't understand risks and costs, and there's pros and cons, but what mistake do you think is made, or what can they do to avoid a mistake from the get-go when it comes to asset protection on, you have 10 properties. They're structuring that to where if a lawsuit comes in, it can't go after all of it. I mean, that's
absolutely.
Yeah. What are your thoughts there?
Absolutely. So on that side, yeah. So if you have 10 different properties, and remember, we're protecting against different things, right? So in some ways, we may be protecting against someone slipping and falling. So you have an Airbnb, someone slips and falls and hurts himself in your Airbnb. But you don't want them to be able to come after all of your assets. Or another property, right? So yes, having certain properties in specific structures of LLCs can be very beneficial Another thing is for lending. A lot of times, if a lender is going to lend, they want to make sure that it is in a single purpose entity business structure. So basically, the governing documents for the business of your LLC will have a provision in it that says this LLC can only own one asset. And that's very important from a lender's perspective, because if something happens, with one of your other one of your other investments and you get sued over there, the lender wants to know that they cannot come after this asset. And then I've had it happen, thankfully none of my clients who hold single purpose LLC to hold one piece of property, and they ended up using that same LLC to own other properties. Lender sent them a letter saying, hey, that is a breach under the mortgage. And so they had to work that out. So there's a lot that goes into this structure. And again, not just as far as, I love what you're thinking about how to, if I get sued, somebody slips and falls on my property and I get sued, how do I protect my personal assets? Yes, having the separation of an LLC is helpful. But there's more to think about with that too, as far as like your ability to get a loan on that property to be able to then do the construction or do anything else that you need with that asset. So I'm going to go back to the lawyer answer of it depends on your goals. It depends on how risk adverse you are. It depends on your lender. Again, I'm going to caveat all of this by saying none of this is legal advice, because, and going back to it depends, so much of this is fact specific.
Sure.
And based on what is going to work for that transaction and that particular person.
That makes sense. Makes total sense. Well, Jen, we are very much looking forward to the meeting. Thank you for being willing to speak at this meeting. Be ready for questions. I'm sure you get attacked in a good way. With questions, that's the only way. But no, we're glad to have you there, and we sure appreciate you. Appreciate your time today as well.
Appreciate you all, and so looking forward to a great conversation.
Looking forward to it. Jen, thank you so much. We'll see you.
Thank you. Bye.
This concludes this edition of Riacast. Be sure to subscribe to receive our next episode. You can also subscribe at our website, www.swflreia.com. See you at a meeting soon. Please let us know if you have a suggestion for a future episode.